Hello and welcome everyone to the Main Street Matters webinar. My name is Patrick Kaiser. I am the Executive Director of Heart on Main Street. Heart on Main Street is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping independent retailers. And this webinar is dedicated to helping retailers provide better business insights and really help their business grow and thrive within their local economies. Our guest today is the founder of WhizBang Retail Training, Bob Negen. Thank you so much for joining, Bob.
Absolutely, Patrick. I'm honored to be here. Main Street merchants you're my jam. You're my jam.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Today, we're going to be talking about interviewing for retail positions. This is a part two to our webinar that we had in April. You don't need to necessarily go back and rewatch it right now. You can do that at a later time. We talked about creating job postings. And so this will be, now that you've had job postings and you've put out your red hot help wanted ad, now you've had people apply. How do we conduct interviews to make sure that we're finding the best candidate possible? So without further ado, Bob, thank you so much for joining and being a part of the Main Street Matters webinar. Bob is the founder, as I mentioned, of WhizBang Retail Training. He has been running the business for over 25 years with his wife, Susan. And I, earlier in the year, was at your Retail Success Summit, and I myself took away so many great materials, so much great information. I know retailers out there will learn a lot as well. If they're wanting to go to the Retail Success Summit in 2024, I know tickets are already available. But Bob, we've had people apply. We've had people respond to our red hot help wanted ad. Now we got to conduct our interviews. Tell us, how do we construct that to be able to find our best candidate?
Absolutely. And thank you, Patrick. So the first thing I'd like to do is ask everyone, if you're here live, could you please put in chat the name, your name, and maybe the name of your company, where you're from, so I get a little bit of an idea of, Indy just posted that there's about 20 of you, so I get a feel for who you are, and maybe I can speak directly to you. So I would appreciate it if you would do that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to back up, and I'm going to give you, okay, I see Jennifer and Sarah, Cindy, long time no see. Cindy was just on my, Ask Me Anything that I did. Shannon and Cleo and Darren. Oh, hi, Chef Darren. Lori, a toy store in Frankenmuth. All right. Toy store in Frankenmuth. I could tell a story about Frankenmuth and the toy store. Anyway, long story. You heard about it here. Beth Rich. Hi, Beth. So thank you all for participating that way. And, as Patrick said, if you have any questions, put them in. This is much more interesting if it's a conversation. And as Patrick said, we'll try to make it between 45 minutes and an hour. But one thing I will promise you is I will stay until all the questions have been answered. You are honoring me with your time here today, and you will be honored by a response. So let's talk about this idea. So Patrick kind of mentioned it, but I want to go back and talk about this real quickly. So we teach 5 steps. There's 5 steps to a WhizBang staff, and they are find them, hire them, train them, coach them. And if they don't work out, what do you want to do? You have to fire them. And these 5 steps were developed through a lot of pain, my pain, right? I was just a guy who started a kite store in 1981. I was 23 years old. I loved flying kites. And because I love flying kites, I thought I'd open a kite store. How hard can it be to run a retail store? You all know how hard it is to run a retail store. And one of the first giant frustrations I ran into was finding and keeping good people. What I would do is if I needed somebody on a Saturday, if somebody quit on a Thursday and I needed floor coverage on a Saturday, I'd put an orange and black sign in the window, and that orange and black sign said, "Help wanted." The first person who'd come in, I'd put a mirror under their nose. If they fogged it up, it meant they were breathing and alive. If they were breathing and alive, it meant they were hired. And if they showed up 2 weeks in a row, they became the assistant manager. And, that's just the way it worked. And then as the years went by, and as I got, and this is important, as I became very proactive about investing in myself and in my education and in my skills, I started to put together this process. And the word is the 2 words, choice and invest. You see, you can be frustrated about not having a good team, but the choice is, do you want to be frustrated or do you want to be better? The fact that you're here watching this tells me that you want to be better. So you're making a choice to develop a great team. And then the second word is invest, and you are investing your time here. You're going to have to invest your time in developing these skills. The reason that there's a staff development graphic right there is one of the investments you might want to consider is the retail mastery system. If you go to your website, our website, you can learn more about it, but that's comprehensive training. But you need to make a choice, and then you need to invest time, money, energy, read books, do all the things. The choice is always followed by action if you're going to get the results that you want. So let's sort of start it, and I'm going to give you the super quick recap of what we talked about in the last webinar on how to write a red hot help wanted ad. I think it's called Snorkeling in the Labor Pool. And it starts with this idea of good chicken. So what's the secret to good chicken? Good chicken.
Chicken.
When our boys were growing up, we wanted to teach them to be good cooks. We wanted them to be self-sufficient when they left the house. And so as we were teaching them, one of the lessons was the ingredients you use will have a big impact on the quality of the dish that you create. So the catchphrase became, what's the secret of good chicken? Good chicken. If you go buy chicken from the grocery store and you buy the absolute cheapest chicken that was raised in cages and grown with steroids, you're gonna have plump, but it's going to be rubbery. It's not going to have good flavor. It's not the good ingredient won't lead to a good dish. But if you invest in good chicken and you go out, and you find high quality chicken, all of a sudden the probabilities that you create a wonderful dish go way up. So what's the secret to good chicken? Good chicken. So what you want to do is you have to recognize that what we're trying to do here is get good people on the team. We want to hire good people. We want good chicken. We don't want lousy, rubbery chicken. We want good chicken. Because if you don't hire good people, it doesn't make any difference. You can't make a silk purse out of a pig's ear. So it's really about the first part. Front loading this process is so important. And it becomes a numbers game, right? If you interview, when I did the red hot, when I did the help wanted, put my nose, my mirror under the nose thing, it was the first person who came in typically. But then as I became smarter, what I recognized is that recruiting is a numbers game. So what you want to do is you want more people applying and you want better people applying. So looking at this graphic, if you had to hire one employee, do you think you're going to get the probability that you get somebody great is going to come from that pool of 3 or this pool of many? And the answer, of course, is this pool of many. Now, I know some of you might be going, oh my gosh, Bob, I don't want to interview all those people. I can tell you that it is a lot more efficient to interview a lot of people and not hire most of them than it is to hire somebody who isn't going to work out. Am I talking the truth here? If I'm talking the truth, put in chat, amen, or thumbs up, or something like that. Because have you ever had that experience where you hire somebody and 2 weeks into it, you go, oh my gosh. And then 3 months later, you're still hang on to them because for whatever reason. So it's a numbers game. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to create a red hot help wanted ad. Again, we're not going to go through it here because there is a whole nother webinar. Again, if you want to go way deeper, I would encourage you to invest in the retail mastery system, but you don't need to. You can go to the Heart on Main webinar and you'll get the fundamental information you need to write a red hot help wanted ad. A red hot help wanted ad is basically a marketing piece. A red hot help wanted ad is a marketing piece. You are marketing to your next great employee, right? So if you don't put a compelling marketing piece out there, you're not going to get good people in. You create a red hot help wanted ad that really speaks to who your ideal employee is. You're going to get a flood of applications. In that flood of applications is going to be what you interview. These are the people that you are going to interview. That is the process we're talking about here today. That is the skill. Because if you recruit successfully, but don't interview skillfully, the probability, merely by recruiting successfully, the probability that you get somebody good is going to go way up. But if you interview successfully on top of it, it raises the bar one more step. So what is the interview? Let's just recognize that the interview has only one purpose. Purpose isn't to find out if they're nice. The purpose isn't to find out if they're friendly. The purpose isn't to find out if they love pets or bikes or whatever. The purpose is to figure out if they are your ideal employee. I did this all wrong for so long. Again, what was it? You know, I would shake their hands, and if they did a good job of being friendly, they were hired. And the reason that I interviewed that way is because I didn't have any skills. Recognize recruiting is a skill, interviewing is a skill, training is a skill, coaching is a skill, firing is a skill. All of these things that we're talking about are the skill set that go into creating a great culture. And recognize this idea that when you have a great culture, your life becomes infinitely better. When you have a team full of great people, you're able to go on those long trips. When you have a great team, they are happier. When you have a great team, your customers are happier. And when your team is happy and your customers are happy, what happens? More money goes into the bank account. So it's this beautiful, beautiful suite of benefits. So the first step in this process is to create your ideal employee profile. And we talked about this when we talked about creating a red hot help wanted ad, because the red hot help wanted ad is really the first step in creating a red hot help wanted ad is to say to yourself, what does my ideal employee look like? What qualities do they have? What characteristics do they have? What traits, what talents, what skills? And so you really have to ask yourself, what is it like? In fact, I would love for all of you to maybe put one of those characteristics in chat. So, I mean, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a self-starter? Are you looking for people who are enthusiastic? Are you looking for people who, I don't know, that's what I'm asking. Honest. Are you looking for people who are honest? Are you looking for people who love animals? Reliable. Thank you, Cindy. Cindy's helping me out here. Thank you, Cindy. But that's what we're the first thing. Able to think on their feet. I love that. So thank you, Chef Darren. So what we're doing is you're asking yourself, what am I looking for? And so when we first learned how to create a Red Hot Help Wanted ad, we first created this process. And if you can't write a list off the top of your head, I would encourage you to do a couple of things. First of all, use this framework that I created called ADD. And ADD is an acronym for Ask, Discuss, Decide. So what you do is you go to your team and you ask them. You can ask them individually, you can ask them collectively, you can ask just your leadership team, but I love the idea of asking everyone. I love the idea of spending 10 or 15 minutes with this in a team meeting. And you ask them, what do our best team members look like? And they're going to have some real great insights for you. And so they'll come up with a list. And again, what happens? Then you discuss what makes those, why is that characteristic great? And then you decide on a list. The thing about ADD is you're looking for input. You can use ADD a whole bunch of different ways. And if you're taking notes, write this down. Let them plan the fight and they won't fight the plan. When you say, I'm looking to create this Red Hot Help Wanted ad so that we have the best team, and when we have the best team, you are all going to, it's just going to be so much more fun for you to come to work. It's going to be so much better for you to be at work. Our customers are going to have a great experience. Everybody wants to work on a great team. So what you're doing is you're bringing them into the process of helping you create the Red Hot Help Wanted ad, which will lead to you creating this interview form that we're going to get to in just a second. You make this list, and there's more information about, in the webinar that Patrick talked about earlier in their education library. So then you have to create custom questions. So let's say you have 5 characteristics that are the most important characteristics for you. Oh, I forgot something. I'm sorry. I love the idea of ADD. The other way that you can do it is to think about your best employee. So when we did this the very first time, like I said, I thought of Jackie LeClaire, and Jackie LeClaire was our best employee probably ever. And what made Jackie such a great employee, and what makes Jackie a great employee? Blum, 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 blum. Ah, there we go. What do I want? I want more Jackie LeClaire's. The other person I thought of is myself. I kind of thought of myself as an ideal employee. What makes me so good here at the Mackinac Kite Company? So those are 2. So ADD, you can make the list yourself, but ADD, thinking about your best employee and thinking about what you do that's best, that will give you that list of 5 to 10 characteristics. Then what you want to do is you want to create custom questions. So what we're doing is we're taking that list, we're building it into the Red Hot Help Wanted ad, and then when it comes time to interview, we're asking questions that point specifically to whether that person has that characteristic. So let me give you an example. So at the Mackinac Kite Company, what was our number one characteristic? We were a kite and toy store. So I know some of you, because I know Chef Darren and Cindy have been part of our community for a long time. So I know that they can get the answer, but the answer that I had was fun. At the Mackinac Kite Company, our number one characteristic that we wanted people who were fun. Our tagline was "Where fun begins," right? And that's what we did. So that's why I'm using this as an example. So what do you, and you want to ask custom questions like, what do you do for fun? So now this is important too. You want to don't ask yes, no questions. You want to ask open-ended questions. So with using the idea of fun, if I asked a teenage boy, what do you like to do for fun, or do you like to have fun? And they said no, well, that person is too dumb to work for me, right? I mean, when they walk in, the big sign says where fun begins. So if you give people a yes, no answer, guess what? They're going to give you the right answer most of the time, but they're also not going to give you insights into what makes a great employee. So you want to ask open-ended questions. So one example of an open-ended question for fun is, what do you like to do for fun? Organized. When we hired our niece, who is now our business operations manager, Aubrey, we were interviewing her for an intern position. And this was, oh my gosh, 12 years ago now. And we said, you know, one of the characteristics, we did the whole process with her, even though she was family. And one of the characteristics we were looking for in an intern, the work she had to do was fun. And so we said, how do you keep track of everything you have to do? And if she said, oh, I keep it all in my mind, we probably wouldn't have brought her in, or we would have given her some direction. But when Aubrey pulled out her planner that was color coded, we knew that she was the person for us. So here's the deal. So what you're doing is you've got this list of characteristics. You're creating open-ended questions that, you know, bring you closer to more information. And how you create these open-ended questions is how you avoid the yes, no questions is you use the 6 powerful words: who, what, where, why, when, and how. So you see, what do you do for fun? How do you keep track of everything you do? So these questions allow you to open up the door. They allow you to, you know, when you ask an open-ended question started by one of the 6 powerful words, now they're giving you the information you need to start to understand whether this is your ideal employee. So what we're trying to do is create those custom questions, and then you want to use a form. You want to take those questions, you want to put them into a Word doc, and you want to use the same form. You want to ask the same question in the same order at every single time. Why? It just makes it easier. Again, if you're interviewing 10 people, it makes your thinking more organized. So when it's time to make a decision, there's not just a bunch of flotsam floating around in your head. You want to take notes on that form. One of the tricks I learned from one of my old managers from the restaurant days is he would draw stick figures, real small stick figures on the top of the form to remind him who that person was. Some people take Polaroids so they can remember. Again, if you're interviewing 12 people, you want to create the reference points. So when you're thinking about it, number 12 doesn't automatically have the inside edge because they interviewed last. You want to really be able to, again, this is the skill. This is the beautiful thing. You're trying to create a skill. You are building a skill of being a really, really great interviewer. And when you ask the same question in the same order, you're comparing apples to apples, and that leads you to being able to make a better decision. The other thing that you're going to find when you use a form and you ask them in the same order is you're going to find out what questions are good questions and what questions aren't. So I don't even remember what the bag, but once you've used that form 20 times, 30 times, you're going to find people always get stuck on this question. And, so then you change it. So I'm not saying you have to use that same form forever, but I am suggesting that you create a form and that's what you start with. And then when it's appropriate, you change up the questions. So are there any questions from anyone so far? Have we seen any questions here, Indy?
I haven't seen any questions come through yet.
Okay. I hope that's because I'm explaining it well, but I do. Please don't be shy. If you have any questions or you have any comments, put them in the box. I'm here for you. So, and this is an important thing. Most people go, I interview, I just talk to them and that's the way it goes. I can tell you that this is a super important thing. Now, the next thing we have to understand is that actions speak louder than words. I love this this cartoon. It's IKEA. Have a seat, right? And it's all the IKEA stuff on the ground. So you want to set the stage for being professional, because if you hire them, you want them to be professional. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by actions speak louder than words? Actions on both sides. So when you have an interview scheduled, show up on time. Don't come strolling in 5 minutes later. If it's a Zoom call, don't get on 2 minutes late. Be on time. Look good. Be present. Turn off your phone. This is one of the most important decisions you're going to make. Again, I keep coming back to the idea or the importance of getting this right. These are people you're going to spend more time with than you may your spouse. So get it right. So actions speak louder than words on your end. Be as professional as you can possibly be. Actions also speak louder than words on their end. You can build tricks into your process that help you get to the bottom of whether this person is a perfect employee. Recently, I did a while ago, I did a program for a West Michigan Chamber of Commerce. I was talking about this, a guy comes up and he said, I have a construction company. And he said, one of my key characteristics is pitching in. And he said, so what I do is I tell the candidate, I'm really, really busy, but I really want to, I want to spend some time with you. Please meet me at this job site. So, so then the candidate would meet him at a job site. And he said, we'll go back to the office and talk more formally. But for right now, let's just get to know each other a little better. And then he would start to unload a load of lumber. Now, one of his characteristics is self-starter, pitch in, see what needs to be done. He called it pitching in. And so he would start unloading the lumber and he'd ask them about their family, blah, 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 blah. And then if the candidate would sit there and watch him unload the lumber, actions were speaking louder than words. He wouldn't hire that person. So that's one example. Another, if you're not going to have lumber in your store, the way that I always did it was I would have them come into the store. Another one of our key characteristics of the Mackinac Company is to work quickly. Be careful, be thorough, be accurate, but work quickly. We wanted people who were fast, who didn't mind hustling. Your retailers. Stuff comes in the back. It needs to be checked in. It needs to be checked in accurately. It needs to be done fast, right? I mean, retail's a fast-paced business. And so what we would do is we would have people come into the store, and then they would call us. So rather than somebody on the floor sending somebody to the office to rather than sending the prospect to the office, we would come out and get them. And we'd walk very fast. I mean, not super fast, but faster than a normal pace back to the office. Why? What were we doing? We were looking to see if they were fast. If while walking back to the office, they fell 3 steps behind us, we knew they weren't a good fit. We want people fast. We want them right behind us, right? So here's the other thing to recognize is that interviewing is really a process of elimination, right? If you're interviewing 15, you got hired 2, it means 13 or you have to say no to. So whenever anybody does something incorrectly, don't be upset, don't be frustrated, recognize that they gave us a good answer. So when it goes to what do you do for fun? If it was a teenage boy and he said, dude, I scored 40,000 on World of Warcraft yesterday. I don't know anything about World of Warcraft, so I'm just making it up. That was a good answer because we weren't a video game store. Our merchandising philosophy was colorful, quality, hands-on fun. And the fact that this kid was a gamer, a passionate gamer, really said to me that they're probably not a good fit, which is a good answer. It's better to eliminate them now than to hire them and find out they're not a good fit later. So that whole thing, it makes such a big, big difference. So actions can speak louder than words. I see a couple of comments. Any ideas on questions for someone making career change? Someone coming from a non-retail background making a huge career change, which is hilarious because she made a huge, just hired, invested time in people, and then decide retail is not for them. Yes, Cindy, that is a great, great question. So what is it about retail that attracts people from outside retail to come into retail? And I'd love to have some comments in chat, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head right here is things like, do you love to work with people? That's a yes, no answer, but you could create a question around that. And I'm just, doing this on the fly right now, but a question could be, tell me about a time when you were in a fast-paced situation where you needed to think on your feet. And if the person says, well, I volunteer for my local, for my kids, school programs, that tells me that they're social, that they like to organize, that they like to go fast. So that's, so think about, Cindy, think about what makes a good retail worker. So not just in your store, but what attracts someone to retail, and then create questions around that. Another thing that I would really do, Cindy, is I would just be very, very frank about that conversation. The whole idea of this is interesting. You're coming from banking. So what makes you, what attracts you to retail when you're in banking right now? What is it about banking that you like or don't like? And what do you think is going to be different in retail? And there's no fail-safe answer, but I'm going to get to the next slide is tell me more, but that would be how I would approach it. So Cindy, what I would do in this case is I would have my standard list of questions, but as soon as I saw that the resume was that they were making a career change, which means they're adults and they're not teenagers applying for a job, I would make a point of having a conversation, a frank conversation about that. Another reason to have that frank conversation is you're setting the stage for honesty. So when you have that conversation in the interview, and you said, in a couple months, they figure out that then they don't decide, you just hired and invested in them. It gives you the opportunity to have the conversation more regularly. So let's say somebody was coming from banking and they wanted to go work for Pangea. What I would say is, okay, I would be satisfied that they were indeed personality wise cut out for retail. But then I would say, after, if you feel satisfied that this might be a good fit, I would say, so I'll tell you what, so you've never been in retail before, you've never been in retail for 20 years. Why don't we make a point of checking in every couple of weeks? And then you put it on your tickler file, and every couple of weeks, you pull them aside and say, hey, how's it going? Are you enjoying retail? Are you enjoying working here? And if you start to see hesitancy, then the conversation can become more real. And then if they feel they need to leave, you see it coming, and it's not a big surprise. It's not a slap in the face as it sometimes is. So that's a great question, Cindy. Thank you very much. Wanting to be thorough, but not making the interview too long. Is there a typical time frame for an interview? I would always schedule a half hour, but sometimes I would schedule a half hour, have a 15-minute buffer, because again, you want to be professional and you want to have some time to reflect on what people have said. You want to make some notes. You don't want to just go from boom, boom, boom. You don't want to schedule them every half hour and one person is walking in and the next person is walking out. So that's how I typically did it, was a half hour with a 15-minute buffer. If you've been doing this a long time, Lori, or I don't know if you but the more you do this, the more you can trust your gut. And I mean, I've had, again, if somebody gives me a wrong answer, even though there's no such thing as wrong answers, I know if it's not going to work out, I find a way to respectfully and politely wrap it up sooner. I'll give a couple more questions to make it feel real. I don't want them to feel bad, but there's no time wasting. There's no sense in wasting both of their time. So great comment. Thank you. Lori, Darren, I've known restaurant managers that would intentionally drop a piece of paper on the floor before greeting interviews to see if they pick it up. Perfect example. Perfect example. Now, I like that idea. There is some danger to it because a lot of people do not feel comfortable doing something like that in an interview. So I like the thought behind it, just like I like the thought behind unloading lumber. But I would let it influence the decision slightly, but not a ton. So, but that was a great comment also. Thank you. Cindy Wells, it seems that there's an exodus from retail COVID era. Now I'm seeing the reverse. I hired a former airline pilot and a teacher is applying here now. That's exactly right. People want, ladies and gentlemen, people want you. People want who you are. People want to feel good about where they work. People want to feel good about working at a Main Street business. People want to feel good about having impact on the lives of their customers, on the lives of their community. Heart of Main Street, this is a beautiful organization because we as independent retailers, we make a difference. In fact, I'm writing a book right now, and it's called Mighty on Main Street, How to Become the Store of Choice in a World of Infinite Options. And, the essence of it is that you make a difference, but then the follow-up to the book is, this is how you make a difference. So, and I think that part of what you're sharing there, Cindy, is so true, is that just as people in COVID came to realize how important their local merchants are. I call it local, loyal, and lucrative. That's local customers. People are feeling the same way. People went through COVID and They're feeling the desire to have work that's more meaningful. And if you create a great culture and you as a local Main Street business are deeply embedded in serving your community, people are going to respond. You're going to find that. So that was a great comment, Cindy. Thank you very much. So the other thing, so all of a sudden now you're in this, you're in this interview, you're talking, it's all going well, but somebody says something that is interesting. So 3 words. Tell me more. So we used to hire a lot of high school and college kids. And we love self-starters. And so one of our questions was, tell us about things that you do outside of school. Because if the person didn't have any extra, self-starters tend to be people who do extracurriculars. One of our Platinum Mastermind groups, Lisa Roberts, who Cindy knows, is an athlete. She was an All-American athlete. Her family, her brother was a pro football player. What she wanted was athletes, because athletes are achievers, right? And we wanted self-starters. So, that it ties in. So going back to Jackie LeClaire, what do you do for extracurriculars? Or what did you do? And she said, oh, I love to juggle. And so then I love to juggle. So where fun begins. One of our main focuses was skill toys, yo-yos, Kadima, juggling. And she said, I love to juggle. And then that leads to, I said, tell me more. Write those 3 words down and underline them, because when it comes to interviewing, tell me more is the thing that really, really unlocks it. And then you just listen real carefully. And what Jackie said was, hey, I started a juggling club in my high school, and, we built it, and, pretty soon it was super successful. And we took these trips that I organized, blah, 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 blah. I'm in love, Jackie. I'm in love. I mean, literally, I didn't need to interview any more people. I did, just sort of to throw a bone to professionalism, but I knew that she was a great fit. So tell me more is super, super, super important. So I see Chef Darren is saying questions to feel out teamwork. So the question would be, tell me about a time when you were part of a team. And then they'll tell you, oh, in high school I did that. And then, so as they start telling you more, you start asking me more. So, oh, that's interesting, tell me more. So this is the way that you do it. And by the way, so I know Chef Darren and Cindy both have the Retail Mastery System, which is our flagship product. And in the staff development module of the Retail Mastery System, there are 75 sample interview questions. So, what are your questions around customer service perspectives, questions about this, questions about that. So Chef Darren, I would encourage you to go back into your Retail Mastery System and maybe look at those questions for more questions that you can put into your interview form. So wonderful. So then we're done, right? You've interviewed 10 people to hire your one person, Cindy, or something that I see a lot more of is people are over hiring. So Cindy, you bite the payroll for a couple of weeks and you hire both the teacher and the airline pilot, because a good employee can always pay for themselves. I would much rather be overstocked with great people and paying a little more than understocked or understaffed with bad people. So I have no problems with people over hiring and making sure that you're doing everything you can to get everything from those people. But you're going to have several people. If you used a good red hot help wanted, you're going to have several people who aren't going to get hired. And this is something we did at the Mackinac Kite Company. This is cool stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is, do this. Don't mess. Send a sorry letter. So everybody who is not hired. So think about this. When they applied, they wanted the job, right? If they came in and interviewed, they want the job. They want to be part of something. And if you don't hire them, don't just send them a quick email saying, blah, 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 blah. Make it good, make it real. I like a letter in an envelope for a reason you're going to see in a second. So first of all, the language needs to be really, really important. So rather than saying you suck, you didn't get hired, no matter what, even if they were a terrible interview, I would say something along the line of, we've had so many great candidates just like you applying, and unfortunately, we are not able to hire them all. At this time, we don't have a job for you. Is that nicer? One of our neighborhood neighbors, we live in a cul-de-sac, and this woman lived right across the street, and all of a sudden she hired and applied, and says, like, oh, Sue applied because we liked her. She was a very nice woman, but I knew she wasn't going to be the best candidate. And we sent her a sorry letter. And she said to us later, she said, I've never been turned down for a job in such a nice professional way ever. Right? That's what you want. That's what you want. And then you want to give them a gift certificate, right? Sort of, and as a way of saying thank you for coming in and spending your time with us, here's a $10 gift certificate to your store. Because one of the things that I'm encouraging you all to think about, and if you go back to the webinar that we did in April, is this idea of you often recruit from your customer base. So if you recruit from your customer base and you don't hire a customer, it's doubly important that you keep them happy. And one of the ways to keep them happy is to give them a gift certificate to your store as a way of saying thank you, as a way of bringing them in, as a way of softening the blow. And then here's the next thing, and this is super interesting. A lot of people don't do this, but these are the tricks of the trade. These are the little secrets that really, when you start to stack them on top of each other, make a huge difference in your business. It's the power of geometric growth. The more tricks of the trade you learn, and the more that you apply them to your business, the more successful you're going to become. Start a hot prospects file. So you interviewed 10 people, you hired 2. 4 of them were good. The 2 that you didn't hire, keep their names and addresses. And then the next time you hire, the first thing before you even start the process, if you really love them, send them an email, drop them a message, call them on the phone and say, hey, you applied here 3 months ago. We have an opening. I hope you're happy where you are. However, if you're still looking for work, or if you're still interested in coming to work for us, I'd love to, if you know that they're qualified, I'd love to hire you. So, and what you're going to find is that if they're good prospects in the first place, they probably already have another job. But again, it's a numbers game. And this hot prospects file is one of those little secrets that can make a big difference in your business. So I don't see any more questions. That's really all I have for you here. So if you have any questions, put them in right now. But if you don't have any questions yet, I do want to just encourage you to do a couple of things for me, or encourage you, invite you. One is that we have something that we call the Retail Buzz, and I would encourage you to subscribe. It's absolutely free. Every Wednesday, you will get a tip of the week, and every Sunday, you will get an episode of my video blog called Real Retail TV. When we do fun, interesting things like webinars and things like that, we'll let you know about it. So that's the Retail Buzz. And of course, there's a button on the bottom. If you don't like what you're reading, you can unsubscribe with a simple click. We also have a Facebook book group called WhizBang Retailers. It's about 6,000 strong. It's incredibly positive. There's always great conversation. I would encourage you to join that also. So having said all of that, I saw Patrick jumping on for a moment. That's all I have for you today, if there are no more questions.
Wait for if anybody else wants to add in any questions, but Bob, what you talked about your retail mastery system. Where can they find your website and WhizBang's information?
Sure. Our website is whizbangtraining.com. That's WHIZ. I see Indy posting it in the chat right now. And the Retail Mastery System is our flagship product. It is the most comprehensive training program for independent retailers anywhere. There's 11 modules. Each of the modules highlights a critical retail skill. One of the modules is staff development. That's what we're talking about here. One of the modules is marketing. One of the modules, digital marketing, selling, assortment planning, store operations, customer service, financial management, personal business skills. So if you're a retailer who's looking to take your business to the next level, it will probably be one of the most important investments you can make. And it comes with an unconditional 90-day money-back guarantee. So, you really take no risk. You're a Main Street merchant. Most Main Street merchants I know are like me. You got into the business because you had a passion for a product, or you had a hobby. And then you get into retail and you go, oh, what am I?
Oh my gosh.
And then
so
that moment becomes the moment where you need to start looking for resources to develop your skills. And it's a great resource for you. And if anybody here, Cindy, Chef Darren, if anybody else here has the Retail Mastery System, if you wouldn't mind sharing your experience with it, it would be appreciated, but it's certainly not necessary. So,
and I have it as well. It is fantastic materials. You guys have videos and written content. It is really, really well done. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you all are looking to want to learn more, WhizBang really is the premier in retail training. So
that's wonderful. Thank you,
absolutely.
Patrick. I appreciate that.
Linda Moore just put in the Retail Mastery System is forever useful. So
forever, forever useful. Thank you, Linda. That's right.
Things to go back. Retail Mastery System is a great investment.
Yes.
I go back into it all the time.
There's 25 hours of training, so you got plenty. You got plenty of work to do. So, and it's good work. It's interesting, if I can say so myself. It's the kind of thing that's going to make a huge difference. And Patrick, you're doing this because you have deep respect and for independent retailers on Main Street. This is, me and Susan, we have deep respect for everybody who's watching this, what you're doing, what you're trying to do, the impact you have in the world. And this is just another way. I shared my free resources. Of course, this one's an investment, but your success is so important to Susan and everybody on the WhizBang training team. I know to Patrick. And your success is important to the world. You matter. Don't ever forget that. But in order for you to have the most impact you can have on the world, you have to be the best merchant that you can possibly be.
Absolutely. You guys make such a huge difference in your community, and helping your business improve, being on a webinar like today's, investing in Retail Mastery System or the WhizBang TV, those things are so important to help your business make sure that you're sustainable within your community and that you can continue to give back to your community. So Thank you all for being on. Bob, thank you so much. I am honored that you are part of our Heart on Main Street's webinar series, our recurring guest. So thank you so much. This was fantastic material. I hope you all got a lot out of it today. I was taking notes. I mean, as a quick breakdown, find your ideal candidate, create your custom questions, use a form for consistency, look for actions as they speak louder than words, use those tell me more, which I think that in any interview, in anything, is so important to be asking, tell me more about that, and really diving in. And then that follow-up, sending that sorry letter to those that don't make it, and creating that customer and having your hot prospect file. Those such great tips. So thank you so much today. As a little plug for our next webinar, we're having one in a couple weeks about visual merchandising. So something that retailers, some are fantastic at it, some are not, more kind of a business mind and need help with that. So partnering with a company called Retail Works Inc. on August 23rd. Sign up for the webinar through heartonmainstreet.org/education, or you can find it just through our website. And we really hope to see you at another webinar. But thank you all so much and have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We're honored. Take care.
Take care, everybody.